Hello, everybody. Sorry, trying to plug in my direct cord so we'd make sure not to lose any of our awesome feed today. It is time for Minute to Skim It. This is a really interesting week because your screen isn't wrong. The DC is not going to be out this week because they have come at skip week. They gave us a bunch of titles last week, so you don't have to worry about it if you get to your LCS and be like, oh my gosh, no DC. It really didn't come out. But there is some very important Marvel that came out this week and a few other goodies. So there is still a reason to go and hang out at your local comic shop. I also am going to review a book that came out via Kickstarter. Woo, right there. Some of you guys might have gotten your books a while ago, but I just got mine today. And I got to read the whole thing, and it's terrifying, and I love it. So take this opportunity to do some shares and some likes and all that fun stuff, and then come back here for reviews. Hello, I hope everyone is having a delightful time. Maybe you were off today. Maybe you've been off since before Christmas time. That would be really cool. ICSF is here. Hello, my friend. How are you doing? Glad you got to stop by. I know there's some people that are still traveling and those kinds of things. And who else do I get to say? Oh, Kenneth is here. Hey, Kenneth. Glad to see you both. And like I said, it seems like there's nothing to review, but I literally, and this is the correct use of the word literally, which means actual, literally. I literally read everything that came out this week that my store gets. So there might have been titles that came out this week that I'm not going to review, but it's just because our store doesn't have enough people doing subscriptions, I guess. Hey, King. I think that says noob. Got it. I was like going, my glasses are like, what does that say? You guys come up with the funniest names. Hey, Freda. Hope you're having a good day. Hey, Amanda. Perfect. All right, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. All right, so let's get started on reviews for this week. I promise that they're spoiler free. No spoiler reviews. What's up first? Okay. This is part of two books that are very much tied together this week. So this is the Ultimates book. So it is the big team that came out of the Ultimate Universe that once it launched, I think this was maybe the third or fourth book in. So this one is really cool because it ties in so completely with Ultimate Endgame, which I know everyone's been waiting for. So how to explain what's going on here? All right, so if you want me to catch you up on everything that's been going on since the beginning, this is 2 years into the Ultimate Universe, in which you have the Maker has created his own universe so he can like rule it, deny all the superheroes any of their origin stories, and many of them become superheroes during the actual during the course of everything, and usually by their own choice, but not 100% always. But they're very much different than their normal origin stories. Okay, but what's cool about what's going on here is that they had kind of like blockaded or domed in the Maker into the city that basically he was imprisoned in. And it's kind of cool the way they did that. It allows for the characters to kind of like evolve. And then also he had put in place this like weird like council. I forgot what they call the council. It had a fancy name anyway. And those guys seem to be not in play right now, or at least they weren't in play in either of these two stories in their whole. The big thing that happens in this book is you see Janet there. This one does a whole bunch of time hopping and tells you the story about her relationship with Howard, which you remember is Tony's dad, Howard Stark. And he, very early on in this whole universe, the series had died. But this actually goes back to when and how they met as young people, how all of that moved forward as a timeline, and everything about that relationship and these two characters are very important to the storyline for both stories. But this one is kind of heartbreaking, honestly. Really, if you have not been reading any Ultimates, it's totally fine to jump in here. It really is a story about the two of them, but then also as it applies to the big whole of the rest of the team. And I really, really, really thought that Ultimate Endgame was going to be kind of like this hard stop for, like complete universe reset, but it feels very much, and I'll talk about it when we get to the other book, very much like the beginning of a new thing, and not a hard stop at all. It doesn't resolve everything in either of these two books. So if you're worried that all your Ultimate stuff is going to go away and not look the same and you're never going to see these characters again, I don't think you have to worry about that. It very much, after I do the review for the other one, you'll understand a little bit further. I'm not going to spoil anything for you guys. I really think it's important for you guys to read these two books because I think they're a great way to. I have this hypothesis that they were going to, since we're ending the Doom, kind of like him. He died, and now we've got the who's ruling everything. Valeria. Does that tie in to this that's just being ended or wrapping up or consolidating itself? And then there's some other stuff that's happening in the universe. It's like kind of felt weird that all of it was coming to a head. I wondered if they were going to cross it all over, but so far, no. As far as I can tell. There's still, like I said, they left it open-ended, so. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. Okay, so who are the people that work on this book and why should you care about them? So Josh Mellerman, you may recognize as a name, responsible for writing a cool story, Bird Box, I believe, that turned into, I think it was a Netflix show that was starred Sandy Bullock and was really popular and probably everyone watched it. So everyone knows that name. Tries not to make Dork Manning joke. Oh, you're gonna. I heard that he might stop by because I told him that we're going to review this book. So he said if he would, he could. If he could, he would. That's what I meant to say. And Dirk Manning, who is a very good friend of the channel, has done many, many books that we have recommended, like Big Long series, Tales of Mr. Hree. Just has done a couple of really great wrestling books recently and has done Lon Chaney. So he's been working with some like really big names to bring you cool stories from inside of like your experiences or from things they've been thinking up. So this one is something that Josh and he worked on together. And here is the pitch for the book, okay? So you can go get this as a regular graphic novel out there. It exists. But this one that I have over my shoulder is like the super crazy lenticular cover book plate signed by Josh and Dirk. And I can't remember who the other person is that signed it. Another J name on there. My glasses aren't good enough to see it.
Joshua Ross.
Thank you.
Yep, and this cover is the direct market cover that comes out in March.
Well, you got to wait till March. But if you find a store that backed the Kickstarter, you have hope for this cool thing, which has got, I put my book plate on the inside, but it's all signed. So anyway, very cool. Now, because of its ties to Hollywood, you probably guess that it's aiming to be something that might be developed. So, and this would be terrifying if it was picked up. So here is the pitch. This is all about a man, the guy in the background there, who is a scientist of some merit who wants to do a short study, like a 2-week study with these two young men that are in the front, who he found, admittedly, by watching YouTube videos that were reporting that they were kids or people that could experience ESP. Because he himself wants to prove that it exists, not for any grand purpose, despite the fact that the one blonde there, the kind of blonde redhead boy there, distrusts him very much because he believes that if they show that they have any abilities, that immediately he's going to, like, you know, sell them to science and cut them up or whatever. And so the mood and tone is set pretty early on in this book, honestly, because when the boys show up with their families to be dropped off for their 2 weeks of study, here it is, looks like maybe as his house is also his lab, that the parents can barely control themselves for trying to get out the door. Like, one of the families basically says, "It's cool. I'm sure the room you have for them is fine. We got plans to be somewhere else. See us." And you get the idea that maybe the parents are kind of terrified of these kids. So the parents and kids have never met each other before. So that's important to know when you start this series or this graphic novel, which has, it gets to the heart of the matter. It's very terrifying to think that maybe there's someone out there that's this strong that can actually, as one of the parents says, "I'm not even really sure," when they're dropping off the kids, "I'm not even really sure if we're sitting here. I'm not really sure if you're real. And I don't even know if I'm really here." So that's where they've got in their life. That's where they would like to say, we don't know what's going on at all. So the book is very much a 3-part story in which you learn a little bit more about the boys and what their motivations are and what their hopes are to get out of this program or not get out of this program. And the man has a really cool backstory too. You find out that he has an ex-wife that there is some back history with, in which she has a different kind of area of study that she was doing, which he does not believe is real. And then she also didn't believe what he was doing had any merit either. So you have two people not really believing in each other's, like, story or what their passion is. So that's a complexity. And then there's another secret that drops during the book. So this one's really great. It's not like slasher horror. It's more the possibility of something very scary going on. And if you, I don't know if it's easy to search for it, but if you ever want to see a full interview that we did with Josh, if you want to hear what he has to say about how it all came about, this book, I did an interview with them. I think it was probably a couple of months ago now, somewhere on the EXP that it's set aside for there. I'm sure that we could probably tie it to this one, so that you can go back and find it. It's the whole story. And then there's there's both a lead in, like a couple pages written by Dirk, and then there is a couple of pages written at the end by Josh Mallerman, kind of about some circumstances of under, like how they met and how they decided on the name and all those kinds of things. Really great stories. So I highly recommend this. If you can hunt it down, it is well worth the read. I see the Rudolphs here, and I see Unknowns here, and Barlord and Acres. Hey, guys. Okay, so here is another storyline. When I talk about there's 3 storylines that are kind of wrapping up at the same time, this is the other storyline that wraps up this week. But does it? Question marks. Okay, So Age of Revelation has been going on for a while, and all we really know about it is we know that Revelation, who is Apocalypse's son, shows up, puts out a gene virus, which basically, if you're human, it could give you mutant powers, but more likely it's going to kill you. And if you're a mutant, it's definitely going to mess up the powers you have and like give you other powers or make you mutate more, or like Deadpool, make you pretty much undead. And there's been this, like, you can see it on the map that they have at the end of every single book that's tied to it. There's been kind of like just a small area that Revelation has been ruling in America. And then some other things like it. So I just love it because the Texas on the map says like the free states of Texas, you know, like it's like, nope, and no one rule over us. And that kind of comes in a big play in here when you realize what the big part of the plan was. And throughout the series, it's always had like a timeline that we know is going on where it says Age of Revelation, X years after Age of Revelation. We don't know what the X means. So this will really get you to understand that this is both taking place in the future and in the current time. But you don't really know that until you read how this all works together. So that's kind of crazy. In the main, like, there's a bunch of different books that have been happening with different characters. And in the ones that came out this last week, you find out that Revelation has a bigger plan, but then you see his dad Apocalypse show up. There are at least 3 states of Texas: Oil, Texas, Barbecue, Texas, and Austin. That's kind of accurate. How do you know these things, Kyle? So anyway, this one is a great wrap up, but this definitely doesn't feel like it's over, except for you. There is a big play in which the form of Revelation changes into something that is related to something that we will definitely recognize. And then just like always, when they have these big events, they're always going to have like they're going to be like, and the story ends. And then a couple pages after that, you know, like ads or whatever, there's like, and here's some more stuff. So read everything really carefully, because I feel like the way this ends is kind of, you ever watch those movies where it feels like there's a loop? Like when you're like, you get to the end of the movie and then it jumps back to the beginning. You're like, oh no. Oh no. All right, Rudolph. That, this might be something that we see happen multiple times, and it's different outcomes every time. And that feels good, not the ones that are annoying. So anyway, this one, great. So don't miss it because it says X-Men Age of Revelation. This is the finale of that big storyline, but not the finale of the character, nor of any of the other characters that are involved. So another great book to pick up this week for sure. All right. I love The Expanse. I don't know if you guys have ever watched the show. It started out on Sci-Fi and then ended up on Amazon, I think. And then I don't think they ever finished the series. I think there's still a book that they can tackle. Or if you've ever read the books. So the book series looks like it's written by one person, but it's really, if you do some research, it's 2 people that write the book series. But it's neither here nor there. It doesn't matter. It is 100% awesome, because just like the fellow who wrote The Martian and Artemis and whatever the new movie that's out that's based in real science, it is very perfectly couched in real space science. Not to say that there's a bunch of science talk in it, because there's definitely not. But if you imagine what a real world would look like in the near future, it feels very, very like that's the way it would go down. That seems like reality, both politically, the way people act and all that stuff. It's not science fiction-y. Anyway, great. Amazing series. If you've never done Experience, you should, or The Expanse, you should absolutely. So this book is a book that focuses in on one character. That's Amos. So they're on the front cover. And it makes sense because the guy who wrote this book is Amos, or plays Amos in the show. And I've seen either regular videos of him talking about it and or writing about the fact that he also has never read the end of the series or watched the end of the series, I think, because he doesn't ever want it to end. I think he's very attached to his character, just like I am attached to the character that he plays. And the character that he plays is a very damaged character. He's an earther. He grew up in Baltimore. And the things that happened to him as a young man have forever like colored his ability to trust people. And he's a very tough guy, but he is so loyal. Like if you're his people, if you're in his circle of whatever, anybody outside the circle just better watch out, because he will do anything to protect the people that are in his circle. So we'll just say that. And just because you've been outside his circle at some point, you can get in there. It's not an impossible thing. If you watch the show, you know that that's true. But this one takes place, I don't actually know when the timeline part is for this one. I should have been paying attention more carefully for when it might have happened. It's definitely after they've opened up the Ring network, because the main crux of the storyline here is the crew trying to get people to work together so that like almost like commerce can happen across all of these worlds that they found by opening up all of these rings that go to different places. So it's more complex than that. Of course, it's very a character driven series. So if you love really great character driven things and or things that happen, I won't call this thing happening in space because they're not floating around or going pew pew, but anyway, in the world of not Earth. How's that? Okay, Predator kills the Marvel Universe has been kind of an interesting storyline. Not to be confused with Captain America versus aliens, or Predator versus Black Panther, or Predator versus, what was the other thing that just happened? They're all great. They all have really good storylines and reasons to exist. But this one is kind of interesting because you end up with characters like Kraven the Hunter. And if you think about the motivation for the way predators operate, it's really about the hunt, right? So you would think they would have a lot in common, but they're very competitive, both of them. So probably that's not true. And then you've got this thing on the front cover that you can actually see front and center. So I'm not ruining anything for you. There is actually a Weapon X Predator that has been made somewhere in the series. And that character is very, very important. And the only other thing I will give you is kind of a spoiler is that there is a character on the front cover here that is very much underestimated and does some really cool crap in this series. So if you like any of these characters on the front, you'll probably be very happy about what goes on in this book. All right, this is kind of crazy cool. So this one is part of Main Universe Marvel. So if you've been reading it ever, you know that Sorcerer Supreme was once Doctor Strange's realm of power protecting the Earth. But he hasn't been Sorcerer Supreme in a long time. In fact, it has been Doom. So Doom has been Sorcerer Supreme through all of the Doom storylines that have been happening, which he basically tries to take over the Earth and have everyone be, Latvians and all this other crazy stuff, which came to a head recently, in which, he's also not around anymore. So spoiler alert, you should read probably the last couple books that were Doom related, because there is one love that has taken him out. So it is a nice lyrics cover. So this is very interesting because they never really said when he disappears what has happened to the mantle of Sorcerer Supreme. And we find out at the beginning of this one that Dormammu also knows that there's no Sorcerer Supreme and says, there are very weak protections on the Earth, and I am going to come and take it over because there's nobody here to protect it. And then, of course, you see Scarlet Witch show up, and she has the vestments. How did she get the vestments? So you have to read this to find out how she gets the vestments. What are the vestments? That's a fancy word. It's the Eye of Agamotto and the cool cape. So this is kind of interesting to see her come and do battle and verbal shenanigans with Dormammu, but also things aren't all hunky-dory and as they seem. So, because fun fact, she was not given the mantle of Sorcerer Supreme. She just kind of thought maybe she should be Sorcerer Supreme. And that does not sit very well with a Vishanti. Is that right? I think it's Vishanti. Who are like the big ruling class of who decides who are Sorcerer Supremes. So anyway, all that stuff comes to a head, and you definitely want to read this because there's something else that comes into play. Oh, it's so good. Anyway, I believe that this series will be a little bit like, you know how everyone regretted not getting into the Magic series early enough and then couldn't find any of the issues, or the Psylocke series that recently came out, or the Phoenix series that recently came out that were so good. And then everyone was like, oh, I didn't think I need to get in. I thought I'd get some of those later. I would just saying here, you should totally and absolutely get this book, because not only is it the first appearance of her as Sorcerer Supreme, there is another appearance in there that will knock your socks off. So, and I promise you, you'll be excited about it. So jump in here. Boba Fett, Black, White, and Red. This one is an interesting storyline. I am sure that I read number 1, so I don't know what has happened in the storyline up until now. But I tell you that it might as well be a standalone storyline, because it doesn't seem like it's tied to anything. Except for the story that's in this book is super awesome. So it opens with them, not Boba Fett, but it opens with people at an academy. And this is definitely the bad guys' academy, so Empire. And central to that storyline is a daughter of Tarkin. Daughter or granddaughter of Tarkin. Definitely a Tarkin, though. And she makes a big to-do of that she's very excited because she knows that she's top of her class, and that the teachers that she talks to at the very beginning is known for failing almost all of his class, except for like 10% of his class. She's very excited about doing well, and so she has the respect of all of her classmates. And then she gets confronted by kind of a cloaked character. And the storyline is essentially trying to figure out who that cloaked character was, why that cloaked character came and is after a Tarkin family member. And Boba Fett is there he's not actually after that character at all. He's after some other named character. It just happens to all end up being one big story, which has some twists, which are really nice. And there isn't like my thing about Tarkin is that he always touches his chin, and that trait isn't carried over into her. So if they don't call her Grand Moff Daughter, I quit Star Wars, Kyle. I mean, why not? But this very much feels like it could be the first appearance of somebody. But having not read the 2 and 3, they might have appeared in those. So maybe you guys that have been reading this from the beginning can be like, okay, well, that character has appeared. So it's not a first appearance. But in any case, sincerely, you can read this book alone this week, not by yourself, but you can read it by yourself. But as a standalone book and totally get everything. There's nothing, it doesn't feel at any moment that it's like a continuation of some story that you're like, if you don't know this, you're lost. So anyway, there you go. The World to Come. Oh my gosh. This thing has been so popular that I have not got to read, I don't think any of it. I may have read the number 1, right? This is another one of those that, like, because there's not a ton that released this week, it allows you a chance to jump in somewhere, and you are definitely going to read this one like I did and think to yourself, I definitely want to go back and get all the books that fit in there, or definitely the trade when it comes out. You almost forgot this book existed. Bora Lord, please tell me you're reading this. Oh my gosh. This book definitely feels like it is taking place not main universe. It's definitely Marvel Knights, which means it's part of a more adult part, edge of the universe. This one is focused in on the fact that T'Challa is seen as being, he's supposed to have been dead. There's a countdown that's happening in this book. So every single panel has like 12 days from the world to come, 5 years from the world to come. So all of those things are kind of like, you can see that there's a countdown that this is building up to. So this guy on the front cover has taken over Wakanda / has kind of like extended past Wakanda borders and like has basically kind of done a Doom thing where he says, Wakanda rules all and I'm the leader of Wakanda, so you're gotta follow me. The other characters that are part of Wakanda are older, like Okoye is older and has gray hair, and Black Panther's sister's older, and everyone that's tied to that part of the universe is definitely older. And everybody that you've ever seen in the Marvel Knights part of the universe is part of this storyline. So if you like Daredevil, Punisher, any of those characters, they are going to show up somewhere in the series, in this book for you. So you will be very happy about that. This person on the front cover is like a son of T'Challa, but it definitely feels like it's like someone that's been adopted into the family, but has taken over. So there is a lot of stuff that's going on in the background that I can't talk to you about because that's really important. And there's some confrontations that are going to happen here, which will wrap this all up. But yeah, this is Quesada and Priest just writing a masterclass of storytelling. It is really, really good. I am 100% certain that this universe is not going to cross over into the other 3 storylines that we've been talking about today. There's really no way, but it still would be kind of fun. All right, here's the end game. All right. So here's the deal. I got to make sure that I'm not misconfigurating my storylines here, since I read 2 that were directly related. I'm certain I got the first book right. I didn't cross anything over that. So I'm trying to remember what the main push is for this book. Oh my gosh.
And having not read any of this, I didn't know that I needed to put them together.
You didn't know you had to put them together? Oh, so
I split them up because this was a number 1 and it seems like a big important book. So we end with that, but I probably should have put them together.
Damages from the blind bags. There might be, Barlord, but if you like crispy books that are beautiful, just get some of the main cover stuff, because there's plenty of really great covers. Like this is the A cover and it's really beautiful. So just think about it in this terms. Even if they do, we'll have a little excursus talk. Even if Marvel says that they're going to reprint the books, they were not going to ever reprint them as polybags, I can guarantee you, because that's so expensive for them to do. And they definitely won't be reprinting them with the sketches, the original art sketches that have been inserted into some of them. So if you want any hope of getting an original sketch, you are going to have to buy the books, even if they have a little bit of, I've seen the damages to them. They are not ever going to make a 9/8, but they are just little tick, tick, tick. Almost all of them have this little tick, tick, tick on them. So if the entire print run has tick, 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 and they don't make another set, then the print run totally has, all of them will be the same. So there's not going to be any 9/8. So
long term, the grading companies will, if it's the whole print run, will say this.
They'll say a known defect. Because there's a known defect to a great many of the Amazing, is it 361, the first Carnage, the machine they use to pull them off of the press almost always put these 4 like almost little cuts in the very bottom of the book. It's almost impossible to get them without it, because that's the way all of them came off the press. So that's my guess. What Kyle is saying is that if it's a known defect that they all have, then they will almost see it as a non-defect, which is, I think, an awesome way to go about it. So Soothier. Okay. So you basically start this entire book with a jump back and forth between Maker. Basically, it looks like killing all the Eternals ahead of him making his universe, right? It goes over the how he put it together. And the big part of the storyline is the big dome removal, right? The race is to try to, they know when the dome's coming down because it's always been set at 2 years to have him imprisoned. But they're trying to figure out what's going to happen once he gets out, how they can do anything. So I will tell you this one thing it'll be tiny bit spoilery. So if you don't want any kind of spoiler, just turn off your sound for a second. But the tiny bit of spoilery is that even when the dome comes down, this imprisoning dome, it's not down, but like for milliseconds, just so you understand that there's something else that's going on. Hope this sticks the landing. Ultimates is still introducing characters. To me, it very much is, like I said before with the other book, that it feels like here in this end game part of the storyline, it really is just this is a real thing that really happened, but also, since we know this is a universe that he's made and the rules kind of like are whatever rules are in play for him, what, as the Battlestar Galactica crew would tell you, it's all happened before and it can all happen again. I think you should read the Ultimates first. I read Ultimate Endgame first and then read the Ultimates, and it was kind of cool because the first part of the Ultimates book actually refers back to something that happens in this book. So I think it's kind of a 50-50. Do them either way. It's not going to ruin anything for you. But I really, really loved it. And both of them are written by Dennis Camp. So, and we know Dennis is killing it in his storylines for these series and for other things he's writing right now. So just trust the Dennis, as I say. I promise you will not be sad about the things that go on. You won't feel ripped off. You won't feel like it's not purgatory. I promise it's not purgatory. But yeah, and it's kind of a fun little thing, this blind bag hunt. Although I will tell you, this is like a true fact. We kind of guesstimate how much we need to buy by how much people talk about it at a time, right? And for blind bags, they always make you order them extra early because of how much time it takes them to make them. That's beyond the normal process of making comic books, right? They had to, I guess, all of the original art stuff that got made had to be turned in by October or something to be able to make it to the print run to hide them in them. So, yeah, I only ordered like 25 of them because we were at the end of, this was like we had just gotten in the blind bags for Monster and Wolf, the Halloween ones, and we had right on top of that they wanted us to order winter ones. And although we love Mark Spears, we were like, I don't know how much extra money people are going to have right now after spending money for Christmas. So our thought process was that probably everyone bought a whole bunch of Mark Spears. Maybe they bought a whole bunch of Turtles. Maybe they bought a whole bunch of Batman blind bags. And we're like, maybe by this time, people will be like, I think I don't want to buy a ton of them. So anyway, and because the price point is a little higher in them too. So if you go to your local comic shop and they have a limit of one or whatever, don't be mad at them because they'll tell you the same thing I will. If you told us ahead of time that you wanted 50,000 of them and you could prepay for them, we would have bought all that. There is a Robert Downey Jr. side cover, more than one. I saw that there was like art. I don't know if he did the art or not, but and it looks like not auto pen. I know Robert Downey Jr. auto pen autographs, and this is not it. So this is like in-person Robert Downey, which is crazy town. That's why you did 55 before FOC. See? Congrats. You did super smart. And to that end, make sure that you do watch on Fridays our final order cutoff show called Order Up, so that you know everything that's coming out in the FOC show. I mean, in the FOC for your local comic shop. Yes, Kyle?
This week's show is at a special time.
Ooh.
4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific. Okay. Because Matthias has to have a whoopka now.
Oh, owie.
So we're going to do it once he gets done with the dentist.
Yeah, the hunt's going to be fun, y'all. I know that for the Mark Spears stuff, they still have not found all the golden tickets for even the Halloween edition. So I have a bunch of them that I'm going to open today because they've been sitting out on the rack long enough for people to have a chance to buy whatever. So now I'm going to open them. Usually people, once I get them open, they buy them anyway because they're like, oh, I know what that one is. And the covers are all so cool. Yeah. $5.99 times 55. That is many monies if you add it all together, which is great. It's going to be, I hope you get like a cool original sketch. That would be cool, Barlord. Let us know. Please keep us in the loops. Do you have any more books? I think that was it, right? At the end of the pile. Hey, Brendan. So graphic novels that come out this week. For those that are following the really powerful Storm, this one is the second volume of Storm is going to be out this week for you. Oops, sorry, I always have the up and down screen over here I got to pay attention to. Triple B. Also available is the Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale run of Captain America. There isn't a ton. You have lots of choices you can make this week. And Wolverine and Kitty Pryde. This is the Chris Claremont book. That's also. Your internet conked out. Be right back. Okay. Well, we can do whatever we want because Kyle can't stop us. And West Coast Avengers by Dugan. I think that's all of them. Did I get all of them? I did get all of them. I just want to stop here and thank you guys so much we're here at year 5 of us working really hard on having this channel with all this information for you guys. I will just tell you that a great many of the retailers and people that you see on the network doing shows that are information shows and other kinds of shows are really doing this on their own time, out of their own heart, because they love comic books that much. So if you can, just like be super nice to some of them and give them some extra thumbs up and stuff that gives them lots of encouragement. And I'm really thankful that you guys have been kind of spreading the word. We can tell it. We can tell from our numbers. And also, thanks for interacting with we do a lot of shorts now. I hope you guys are enjoying those. Those are a lot easier to watch because they're little tiny bits of information, which are really cool. Yes, Kyle.
Oh, nothing. I'm just letting you know I'm here.
Well, I'm glad your internet didn't go permanently down because that would be really hard to work forward from here. All right, we ran out of books to talk about this week. I'm actually very impressed with myself that I could make the amount of books that we had come out this week fit into the amount of time we have, which is cool. And don't go anywhere because in about 15 minutes, I'm coming right back and I'm going to sell the same books that I just showed you. And now you have all the information you need to pick the ones that you want. See? And then is there anything else going on today?
Henri will be here 10 to midnight Eastern.
Oh, wait. Okay. So I saw a short today that was like him talking about selling the whole board for $25. Is that the show he's doing today?
That is the show he's doing today. Last week on his show, we had a wonderful buyer who bought the whole board for the other people on the show. The other people in the comments. So he cleared the board and told Henri to give the books out to the people in the chat.
What a great... That is a really great thing.
Mm-hmm.
I like that unknown, except for I have a limit of 1. Because I only bought 25, as I just discussed. I would have totally sold you 55 if you told me 3 or 4 weeks ago when I ordered them. I'd have totally done it. But yeah, you can totally get your 1. All right. You guys have a really good time. I'll see you guys in about 15 minutes. Bye, y'all. Kyle's not taking me down. We're on forever.